Warning: this speech contains evidence of domestic violence against men and false accusations. Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, two Hollywood stars, met filming the 2011 movie The Rum Diary, began dating in 2012, and were married shortly after in 2015. According to UK News, in May of 2016, Heard claims that Depp had become aggressive and had mentally and physically abused her. This allegation would change their careers in two completely different ways. The fallout of this case study reveals important truths in our society about credibility, domestic violence, and the legal system. Throughout this speech, we will first analyze what happened between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Secondly, we will look at the important issue of domestic violence against men, before lastly turning to the implications of the case on false accusations. So, what happened? After only 2 years of marriage, the couple were divorced in 2017. While details of the divorce remained private, relationship details became public after The Sun, a UK tabloid, posted an article on April 27, 2018, calling Johnny Depp a wife beater. Depp sued The Sun, and the 3-week-long trial looked at 14 different allegations made by Heard. One of the larger allegations is a night in which Heard claims that Depp aggressively came into their LA home, hit her multiple times, and destroyed some of the property. According to Insider, Melissa Sanas, one of the first officers on scene, stated that she did not identify Heard as a victim of domestic violence. Daily Mail Online discusses a recorded body cam footage that shows no damage to the LA home only 2 hours after the alleged incident. Insider discusses a recorded phone call in which Heard states that she hit but did not punch Depp, and that she has anger issues and cannot control it sometimes. Meanwhile, according to US Weekly, Depp claimed in court, "She hit, punched, and kicked me. She also frequently and repeatedly threw objects into my body and my head." So, despite the police not identifying Heard as a victim of domestic violence, and the evidence shows that Depp was not abusive to Heard, but was abused, Judge Andrew Nichols ruled against Depp in his defamation lawsuit, stating that the allegations were substantially true. After the trial, Depp was booted from his memorable role of Captain Jack Sparrow, and also according to Insider, Depp was asked to resign for the Fantastic Beasts series as Grindelwald. Meanwhile, Heard continued filming for her second Aquaman movie as Mera and made an appearance in DC's Zack Snyder's Justice League series. Now that we understand what happened, we can now look at the important issue of domestic violence against men. Jan Brown, the director of the Domestic Abuse Helpline for Men, stated, "Domestic violence is not about size, gender, or strength. It's about abuse, control, and power, and getting out of dangerous situations and getting help, whether you are a woman being abused or a man." We will first look at the prevalence of domestic violence against men before turning to the lack of credibility given to men who report their abuse. Family Crisis Center states that 1 in 4 men are abused by their intimate partners. According to Psychology Today, in 2019 in the United Kingdom, 1.4 million men were victims of domestic violence. Also, according to Psychology Today, there are 626 shelters for women who are abused in Canada, yet only 6% of these shelters accept men. While we understand that domestic violence against men is an important issue, men are still socialized into thinking that they have to be the strong and dominant member of the family, which leads to many men not reporting their abuse. According to Psychology Today, less than 20% of males report the abuse they receive at home. In a social experiment created by Mankind Initiative, laughter is the most common response to a man who is being abused. Depp was brave enough to state in court that he was being abused by Heard, yet the courts only looked at the story from Heard being abused by Depp. This shows that the incident between Heard and Depp is not an isolated incident, but reflects a large societal problem. Understanding what happened between Depp and Heard and the important issues of domestic violence against men leads to the implications on false accusations. Similar to the McCarthy hearings in the 1950s, our society is judging people without accessing the facts, and that is directly causing harm to those who are accused. We will first look at domestic violence against men on those who are falsely accused, and then look at those who do not fact-check their accusations. According to the Center for Prosecutor Attorney, 20.4 million adults are falsely accused of abuse. One example is William Quinzel, who was on death row for killing a store clerk in the 80s based on the plea deal confession his roommate signed. Even though there was substantial evidence that another person had committed the murder, including a murder weapon and the victim's blood on a piece of clothing, Quinzel should have been granted a new trial, but instead was denied twice and ended up dying in prison in 2022, according to Washington Post. The legal case study between Depp and Heard currently has evidence showing that Depp was not abusive towards Heard. Yet Heard told the courts a different story and they believed her. The tendency to believe all accusations without due process is directly leading to people going to prison. And the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard case is just an example of where the initial claims did irrevocable harm despite evidence supporting the defendant. We need to ensure due process before rushing to judgment. When we do not give due process to an accusation, there can be consequences. Because in November of 2014, the Rolling Stone magazine posted an article about a rape at the University of Virginia in a fraternity. Due to the lack of fact-checking by the Rolling Stone magazine, they faced many years in courts and had to pay out millions to those who were harmed by this article. During the Supreme Court Justice confirmation hearings of Brett Kavanaugh, the Rolling Stone story was used as an example of why not to believe the accusations made by Christine Blasey Ford. This woman's false accusation made it harder to believe other real accusations. Due to Heard's false accusation, it can be harder now to believe the real accusations that are made within our Me Too movement. According to Guardian News in 2016, director Terry Gilliam, who had worked on many films with Depp, tweeted, "Like many of Johnny Depp's friends, I'm realizing that Amber is a better actress than I thought." So, we have looked at what happened between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard and how the case impacts domestic violence against men and how the case has impacted false accusations. When we begin to look at the evidence and discover what is the actual truth, perhaps Depp can go back to acting again someday. But until then, find me the rum.